Hey there, it's Kat and this is Brews and Reviews. So today I'm going to be giving you guys a very late October wrap-up. I actually filmed this video once and the footage got deleted. I am having a time with technology right now, but like, aren't I always? Excuses. Anyway, here we are for the October 2020 wrap-up, and I'm going to tell you about the books that I read. And we're going to start off the day with Kissing the Coronavirus, and I don't even remember who that's by, and I'm not sure that's a bad thing. It's like a 16-page ebook where a woman in a lab accidentally turns a guy into the living embodiment of the coronavirus, and then she has sex with him. It's actually a very odd one though, because I feel like it was written to be hilarious. Like it was written to have the mick taken out of it, because there is no way that that was written otherwise. It was just filled with too many ridiculous things. Like, I don't even want to say the ridiculousness that would come into it. I could have done a Complaints with Cat video on it. I decided not to. But the thing with Complaints with Cat videos is I think that they actually start off trying to be good books, whereas this one I think is some sort of parody, a terrible one. I'm sure there's a lot of things out there on the internet, so you don't need me to go into too much detail. Well, you could read it yourself. It's only about 16 pages long. It's terrible. There are some very, very interesting word choices. It's bad. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. I will tell you though, it is good for a laugh. If you want to sit down and have a laugh with your mates about the ridiculousness that is in that book, it is good for that. So after that I needed to read like a real book or something, so I picked up Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is continuing on in my Throne of Glass reread sort of continuation thing. I'm trying to read the whole series at some point, so had to reread this one, and I've got to say I actually liked it a little bit more than I liked it the first time. I think because I had a little bit of context from reading The Assassin's Blade, that Selena's arrogance and her lack of killing people made a little bit more sense, and I didn't care as much because I'd had that backstory from her beforehand. It was fine. The writing isn't great. The characters aren't great. There are some interesting bits though, so yeah, it was 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, I continued on with my rereading series thing, and I read Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. Yeah, this one was better than Throne of Glass, but not super the best thing I've ever read in my life. It was 4 out of 5 stars, because I did think that there were bits that had sort of elevated from the previous one. Like, I didn't like in the previous one how the competition wasn't really a competition, it was a bit rubbish. And then this one, yeah, it just had more interesting things. I like the introduction of sort of witchy things and where things went with certain characters, and the fact that Selena actually killed someone, I like that. Because she is meant to be this, like, ridiculously powerful assassin, and then, like, she doesn't really kill anyone, so it was kind of nice to see her actually do something. For a while she doesn't do a lot of killing though, so I was a bit like, eh. But, yeah, it was fine. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because I did enjoy it. I just know that, like, the writing's not great, and it's not a perfect book by any means. Next up, I finished up a buddy read with Faye from Mystery Date with a Book, and we read Inkspell by Cornelia Funk. So this is the second book in the Inkworld trilogy, and it's a chunker. It's a big boy. I think it's like 600 something pages, 650 pages. No, it's 680 pages, so we're almost 700 pages here, and it did not need to be this long. Really, really did not need to be this long. I think you could cut out a good 200, 300 pages of unnecessary description from this book. I don't want to spoil the first book, but the majority of this book takes place inside a fictional book, so there's a lot of description that comes with that. I just felt like a lot of it was really unnecessary, and I was like, yeah, we get the picture. It's like a medieval type, Italian type town. Got it. Did not need pages on pages on pages of this place look like this, and there's this one guy over here with this thing, and he's like, ah. I just do not care. It was kind of boring. I feel like you could have chopped quite a lot of this book out. Also, I had a few other issues with this that I think both Faye and I shared. There's a character in here called the Black Prince, and his main characteristic is that he's black. He's got dark skin. I don't know if something got lost in translation, because I think Cornelia Funk wrote this in German originally. If I'm mispronouncing her name, I apologise. But yeah, that was a bit dodgy for me. There's also a section in here where, like, a grown-ass adult man sleeps with a 13-year-old girl. it's kind of like repeatedly implied in here that like in this fictional world people get married at 13, and I know that's like a thing in fantasy books and stuff, but like no thank you. I think one of the things that made it worse is that you have these characters that exist in our world who have gone into this world and they don't think it's weird, but it's weird. It's not right. So, like, can we not have that happening, please? Now, on to the things that I did like about this book, because I did think there was some good things about this book, and I remembered why I love Dustfinger. When we read Inkheart, I had previously read Inkheart, and I was like, why do I like Dustfinger? Because he's kind of a dick. Now I know why I like Dustfinger. So his part in this was really the shining glory for me. And there were some other sort of cool things. Basically, when you get to like the end half of the book, it starts to get good, but like it's a chunker to have to get through to be good. I actually think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but I think part of that is nostalgia because I had read this before and like the Dustfinger feels, so I think that's partly why I gave it that rating. Then next up I read The Hanover Block by Gregor Zane. So this is a book I keep saying that I'm going to read. I've said it over and over again, put it on lots of TBRs, and then I just never read it. It's about a suburban American town in which sort of structures start appearing in people's back gardens, and nobody really knows why. And what's actually happening is a giant blob of flesh has appeared in everyone's back garden, but only the people who live in the house can see it. Yeah. Like, I don't really want to say more, but I think you can see by the cover that, like, it's weird. It's weird. You know, it was kind of investing, and you could sort of see how people went down this, like, descent into, like, weird, obsessive madness. And it was, I don't know, intriguing and enthralling, and I want to read the next one. I bought the next one, so I'm gonna read it. But, like, it was kind of gross, but intriguing. Or if you like bizarre, short stories, then definitely check that one out, because it was weird, but I can't say I didn't enjoy it in like a weird way. I don't know, it was a very strange read. I actually ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, so I don't know what that says about me, but like, it was weird. Next up I read You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. And this is a contemporary book about a girl called Liz who enters the race to become the prom queen because it comes with scholarship money, and she really, really wants to get scholarship money because otherwise she's not going to be able to go to the college that she wants to go to. And it's really cute. It kind of felt to me a little bit like a short TV film. I want to say like a holiday movie, because it could have been. I think it's because of like the happy vibes and like the little scenes. I could just see them being in a film. I don't know why. That's a terrible advert for this book. It's a great book. I really enjoyed it. It's very, very cute. Like the sapphic relationship, very, very cute. And there's different representation, and there is a little bit of a toxic relationship, like friendship type relationship in there at one point. And there's also a little bit of racism, because people be racist, unfortunately. Yeah, but it was a good book. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then next up we have I Hate Fairyland Volume 3 by Scotty Young. And this is a very violent comic about a girl who went on an adventure in Fairyland and then got stuck there for 30 years, and she's in the body of a small child, very, very not happy about not being able to get out of Fairyland. So in this book we actually see some growth for Gert, finally. Because the first 2 books are kind of her just be like, so angry, and lots of very violent scenes, which is great if that's what you're looking for, and I did really enjoy them, but I feel like this one had character growth, and I enjoyed that. Because you see her start to realise that maybe she does need to change to be able to actually get out of Fairyland, and she goes on like little journeys, and there's like a section in here that takes the mick out of Labyrinth, and everybody that loves Labyrinth, and that's me. I was like, yeah, I am feeling like the mick has been taken from me here. But I enjoyed that section. I thought it was quite funny. Yeah, it was a good addition to it, and I think the ending has left it in a really, really interesting place. So I can't wait to see where the next one goes. Then I read The Girl from Everywhere by Heidi Heilig, and this was the group book for the Because We Can Readathon. So if you want to hear my thoughts on this, head over to the live chat that me, Jenna from Just a Little Bit Random, and Kat from Stars and Embers did on the Because We Can Readathon channel. If you're wondering what star rating I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, so it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. Then I picked up Zombie Tales, the series, the comic, and I can't remember who this was by. I picked this up because it was a free horror graphic novel, and I got it on my Kindle, so I was like, yeah, okay. It's basically a series of short snippets that are about a zombie apocalypse, and there's very different types of zombie apocalypse. Sometimes there are like sentient zombies, and there's so many other different types, and there's people with disabilities in the apocalypse, that sort of thing, so I found it really interesting. I think some of them had really interesting things to say about society and how we view things, and then some of them were just like, whatever. So I enjoyed it, but everything in it was very, very short and like not too investing, and some of them were a little hard to read. Like, I don't know if it was just the format because I was reading it on Kindle, and like my Kindle is quite small, but some of like the text was really, really hard to read. So I ended up only giving it 3 out of 5 stars. But if you're looking for like very short snippet type stories about the zombie apocalypse in graphic novel form, then that's a good one to try. Then I picked up Goosebumps Monsters at Midnight. This was another short graphic novel. It was another one that was free on Kindle because basically I wanted to take part in Horror-a-thon and I didn't have any kids books or graphic novels that were like horror-y, so I was like, listen, Kindle save me. So it did. And I read Monsters at Midnight, which is actually the first Goosebumps book I've ever read. And I really enjoyed it, actually. It was good. Yeah, I thought if I'd have read this as a child, I would have really enjoyed it. As it is, I'm a 28-year-old woman, so I thought it was fun, but not really for me, because it's really not made for my age range, and I didn't have that nostalgia to back it up. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Then next up I read Scratches by Joshua Marcella. So this is a novella about a woman and her son who move into her late father's house, and creepy things start happening, specifically in the basement. And I don't really want to say more. What I do want to say is this book creeped me out. And I don't really get creeped out often. I don't know if I was just like really in the mood for it. I was reading it on Halloween. I was like really in the mood to read horror, and yeah, it creeped me out. At the beginning, I started reading the book and I was like, not sure about the writing, not sure if it's really for me. I think I couldn't get a handle on the age of the son, and felt like everything was being told to me and not shown to me. And then something creepy happened, and I feel like when creepy things were happening, it was written really well, and it was like perfectly creepy scenes, and I really enjoyed the sort of atmosphere that was being built up, and then the writing gradually improved as I went on. So I think when they were just like regular scenes of just people talking about like regular stuff, it was a little bit ropey for me in parts, and I don't know if that's just like personal preference, but when it moved into horror, it really, really shone, and I really enjoyed that. And I was like really glad that I continued, because at first I was a bit iffy, and then I was like, yeah, no. As soon as that first creepy thing happened, I was like, yeah, I need to carry on with this, and then I just read it all in one go after that, so it's very good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read in October was Fledgling by Octavia Butler. So this is a book about a black amnesiac vampire in the body of a 10-year-old. And I'm very conflicted about this book. Super, super conflicted. So from the premise, you might think, oh, maybe it's got like that whole Interview with a Vampire Claudia thing going on, where she's like lived for ages but she's still in a child's body and all that sort of thing. It's very different from that. The Ina are a different type of vampire, and I think they're really interesting. The way that they work, and with like, they have like human symbiotes and things like that, and it's really interesting. I am deeply uncomfortable with a certain aspect of this book though, and I think that a lot of people seem to share that from looking at the Goodreads review. I don't know, this is a very polarizing book. Like, I really enjoyed a lot of things. There's like a vampire trial in it as well, and it's really interesting, but then there's this thing. So, she's in the body of a 10-year-old, right? A 10-year-old. And then she wakes up, she stumbles across this random human guy who's in his 20s, and then there is sexual activity that happens. They're all very clear before anything happens that she's like about 50 in vampire years. She knows she's not a child, but like, it's wrong. So, I don't know, I listened to this book, and I feel like it was easier to sort of like, I don't know, I kept forgetting that it was a thing, because the audiobook narrator is clearly a grown adult woman. So, like, but then it would bring it back, and it would remind you, and then you'd be like, oh god, no, ugh! So, like, I can't recommend this book to anyone, because even though there were bits that I liked about it, there were, like, some really great things, I, like, was deeply uncomfortable by the child body. Like, just no. So as you can see, I'm very conflicted about this book, and I just kind of wish I'd never read it. Even though, like, there were really great things about it, I just wish I hadn't read it, because I, like, who needed this in their life? Nobody needed this. Like, just have made the main character's body older. Anyway, talking about that has obviously just exhausted me. Yeah. So those are the books that I read in October. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!